Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. I am fully immersed in the R.I.P. challenge for fall. That's Readers Imbibing Peril. I'll include information down below. And I do this challenge every fall. It's very simple. There aren't even any sign-ups or anything. Just play along. And the idea is simply to read darker stuff during the fall. So this is a great way for me to shift gears from big book summer and read some creepy, suspenseful, action-packed stuff in the fall. You can check out my R.I.P. video to see my huge pile of possibilities for the next 2 months, and I am really enjoying going through those. So first up, in print, I am reading Countdown City by Ben H. Winters. So this is book 2 in his Last Policeman series. This one won an Edgar Award, and this one won the Philip K. Dick Award. So both are award-winning books. The idea behind this series is that the world is ending. You can see the asteroid there on the cover. There is an asteroid headed to Earth. I think when this first book opens, it's 6 months out. It's enormous, bigger than the one that killed off the dinosaurs. It is headed straight for Earth, and there is no way to change its course. So the world is going to end in 6 months, or the world as we know it, certainly. So already in this first book, things are changing. The whole series is about a police detective named Hank Palace. And Hank lives in Concord, New Hampshire. In this first book, he's only just recently made detective. It's the job that he's wanted to do since he was a little kid. But of course, now the world is ending. So in the second book now, Countdown City, it's a few months later, things have changed dramatically. When it was announced that this was happening, people had different reactions to it. But most people left their jobs. So the supply chain completely broke down. The power grid, by now, the power grid is off because nobody wants to work to maintain it. Here, Hank is wondering how long the water's going to last, how long the water will stay on. And really, things have changed dramatically by this book. In fact, Hank is no longer officially a policeman. In that first book, he continued to investigate cases, a murder in that first book. Here, he was forced into early retirement, only like 6 months into the job, because the Department of Justice, the Federal Department of Justice, has taken over all police departments. Policing is all federal now. There is no investigation, no detective work. They're just basically trying to barely keep the peace, and that's it. There is, there's no follow-up. There's no justice system left. At the beginning of this novel, Hank gets a call from his childhood babysitter, a woman named Martha. She had babysat for Hank and his sister for years. They knew her really well. And she calls him up in a panic. Her husband has disappeared. And she wants Hank to find him for her. Now the thing is, in this apocalyptic world, pre-apocalyptic world, I guess, there are people missing all over the place because a lot of people are what they call going bucket list, just leaving their old lives behind, leaving their spouses, leaving their children to run off and do whatever they want for their last months on Earth. And so Hank is a little bit skeptical at first, as are a couple of his old policeman buddies that he meets with. But You know, this woman really holds a special place in his heart. She was their babysitter. He even had a little crush on her as a kid, and he really wants to help her. And as we saw in the first book, Hank really is dedicated to the job of police work, to investigation. And so he begins looking for Martha's husband. So on one level, this is a mystery, a detective story. But the setting just takes it into a whole other realm because, you know, the description of what is going on is fascinating. The sort of bizarre groups that people are forming, the crazy things people are doing, the ways that people are planning for survival. It's all of it is just fascinating. So you've got a detective story in the midst of that bizarre setting. My husband had already read this. I got him both of these as gifts. That's how it works in our house. I buy him books as gifts and then I get to read them myself. He buys me plenty of books too. So very much enjoying book 2, Countdown City by Ben H. Winters. And we will both definitely be reading book 3. It is a trilogy, so the third book will be the last one. They're running out of time after all. On audio, I am still listening to Destiny of the Republic, A Tale of Madness, Medicine, and the Murder of a President by Candace Millard. I'm reading this, listening to it for my book group, which meets this week. We have previously read Candace Millard's The River of Doubt, about a journey Theodore Roosevelt made after his presidency down the Amazon. And that book was amazing, really fascinating. We all loved it. So this was a popular pick for our next book. It is all about President Garfield. Now, I knew nothing, zero, about President Garfield. I could have told you there was a President Garfield. I knew nothing else, not even really when he was president. So everything here is new to me, but it's not just the history. As always, Candace Millard is just a wonderful writer, and she writes narrative nonfiction that just pulls you into the story like a novel would. Now, she's got 2 different narrative threads here. One is Garfield himself, his childhood, his upbringing, his education. He was a very well-educated man. He actually worked in academia for a long time. How he became president, I found those sections absolutely fascinating. The details, and it's because it's nonfiction, she is relying heavily on primary sources, first-person accounts from people who were there. The account of the Republican National Convention where Garfield was nominated was fascinating. He had no idea he was going to be nominated. He did not want to be nominated. He went to the convention to speak for one of the other nominees, and they voted hundreds of times, which is mind-blowing in itself, because these days the conventions are just a formality. We already know who the nominee is before the convention. Not back then. And I should have said, this takes place, I'm trying to see when the convention, it's after Lincoln, so it's the, I think like 1870s, maybe early 1860s. There's a lot of dates in here, but things were just so different. And that is fascinating. And his story is fascinating. But at the same time, right from the beginning, she's got the narrative thread of the life of the man who assassinates him. Who is, yeah, madness is putting it mildly. This guy was a total nutcase. And you can see that from his early days. So, you know, you're seeing these 2 threads gradually come together until the point where he shoots the president. Now, in addition to all of that, she's put in some really fascinating stuff to kind of fill in what was happening during this time. She's got really interesting information about the inventors of the time: Thomas Edison, Bell, the telephone, these things that were, there's a section on the World's Fair, these new inventions that were being introduced that were changing the world. It was definitely a time of great change. So I am thoroughly enjoying Destiny of the Republic by Candace Millard. The audio production is excellent. That's what I'm reading right now. Let me know what you plan to read this weekend in the comments down below.